Who sent that amendment? Who sent the agenda?
Valerie Sherman.
Valerie, okay. I can find it real quick here, I think.
All right, Counselor, your
Andrew?
meeting has started streaming.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Andrew?
Yes, who's calling for me?
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
The Mayor Barasa said she's having a hard time signing into Zoom.
Okay.
She said it won't take my email address or password. She's having a hard time
Interesting.
getting in there as well.
Okay. Well, as of the moment, we still do not have quorum, so we can't have the meeting. I guess we can the only thing we can do right now is just sit tight. We do have the DOT tip amendments that are pending. I'll have to defer to Debbie, and she is here on the line with us, as to the urgency of them. But I presume that DOT is going to request that we do a special meeting if today's meeting does fail because of lack of quorum. But Debbie, if you can please speak to that.
And Andrew, this is Commissioner Sanchez. I just want to let you know I've tried to reach out here via text to the other commissioners as well. So I don't know. I haven't received a response as of yet, but hoping that we'll get at least one of them on.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Or yes, Commissioner.
Andrew, this is Debbie Hudson from NMDOT. And yes, I would definitely recommend if you don't meet quorum that you hold a special meeting for the tip amendments.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that.
Okay. I'm texting Bencomo and Vasquez too.
Counselor Bencomo notified me that she was not going to be able to attend this afternoon regardless. I don't know what the conflict was, but she was not going to be able to be with us anyway.
Okay, what about Vasquez?
Never heard from Counselor Vasquez.
All right, I'll try him.
I'm not sure where Mr. Doolittle is. He accepted the meeting just a few minutes ago, so I'm a little surprised he's not here with us.
And Andrew, I have Trent on the line right now. He's trying to sign in.
Okay.
Okay, let me speak with him and see if we can't get him in.
Believe we have Trustee Johnson Burek.
Okay, thank you.
And we now have Mr. Doolittle. So, but it'll take them about a minute for their audio to kick in. So,
Sure.
But we do now have a quorum.
All right, very good. So Trustee Stephanie, you may take over the meeting.
Trustee Johnson Burek, your mute is still on.
Still muted. Dominique, help her out.
I'm showing that she's unmuted.
Me too.
Not sure why we're not hearing her.
Oh, the marvels of technology.
Yes, for sure. Perhaps a defaulty microphone on her computer or device she's using. She can call in.
Either that, Councilor Sorg, or if you wanted to lead the meeting for now until that got sorted out, and at least we can get a visual confirmation if during any votes from Trustee Johnson Burek.
I would
Yes.
go along with that.
Yes, Counselor, as long as we have some kind of visual sign from the trustee that she is consenting to the vote, we can verbally announce that in the record, and I believe that
Yes.
suffices.
Okay. And so the meeting is a call to order, and the first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Do we
So
need to make a
moved.
roll call first?
Oh, yeah.
We can
Uh,
roll call. It doesn't on the agenda, but that's all right. We can do it.
Yes, Counselor. Hold on, I've got a list. Trustee Johnson Burek,
She's shaking her head.
she's present. Mr. Doolittle.
Is approval of the agenda.
There's Trent. I see Trent.
So
Do we
Andrew,
need to make a roll call first?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
we're doing a roll call at the moment.
It doesn't on the agenda, but that's all right. We can do it.
Yes, Counselor. Hold on, I've got a list. Trustee Johnson Burek,
She's shaking her head.
she's present. Mr. Doolittle,
here,
Trustee Garcia,
Here.
and Commissioner Sanchez,
Present.
and Mr. Chair.
Here.
We do have quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So now on approval of the agenda, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
This is Commissioner Sanchez. I'll move approval of the agenda.
This is Trustee Garcia. I'll second it.
Very good. Would the roll call be made for this motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Trustee Johnson Burek,
She nodded her head.
yes, okay, I saw. Okay, very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Doolittle,
yes,
Trustee Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Okay, yeah, does Trustee Johnson know about making a phone call in and go using a telephone for the audio? I've seen that done in Zooms before. You can use,
Mr. Chair, I was in correspondence with the trustee yesterday about using the phone call. I don't know, though, about her being able to double dip, I guess, on her account from multiple angles, though I'm not able to answer to the technical side of that. I don't know if Dominic Aragon might be able to speak to that or not.
It wouldn't hurt. At least she could participate with audio.
so does she have the phone number?
It would be in the email that was sent, so
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, good. All right, well, just go ahead and do that and we'll catch up with you. So anyway, we have on the agenda, the approval of minutes of July 21st. Is there a motion to approve?
This is Commissioner Sanchez. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting of July 15th, 2020.
This is Trustee Garcia. I'll second it.
I think it's July 21st on my agenda. Am I got the wrong agenda? No, it's for today, the 18th.
Mr. Chair, you're
Yes.
correct. It is the last minutes were from July,
Okay, 21st.
July 15th.
Oh, so it's a misprint.
I'm not sure which agenda you're looking at. The one I've got says the 15th.
This is for I see what I got here. The Bicycle and Pedestrian Facilities Advisory Committee. Never mind, wrong agenda. I'll have to go by something else. What I'll do is just ask Andrew, what's the next item on the agenda, rather than take all the time to try to find it. I had it in my window for the browser at one time and it's not there anymore. I must have about 10 things there. lots of irons in the fire here. So Andrew, what's next on the agenda?
Calling the roll for the vote on the approval of the minutes. So I will go ahead
Okay.
and do that now, Mr. Chair. Trustee Johnson Burek. Okay, I saw Trustee Johnson Burek nod her head. Yes. Mr. Doolittle.
Yes.
Trustee Garcia.
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
The motion
What's-
passes, Mr. Chair.
thank you. What's the? Oh, I think we have. Trustee Johnson. Okay. What's next on the agenda, Andrew?
Just bear with me for 1 second, Mr. Chair. I want to
Sure.
see if Trustee Johnson Burek's sound is now working.
I don't think so.
Oh, no,
Oh,
we
yes.
hear you. We hear you. We hear you. We hear you.
I did the call in on Zoom.
We do hear you, but we're going to have to keep you muted unless you're specifically speaking because we're getting a lot of feedback. So just keep that in mind.
That's right.
We do hear you, trustee.
You are heard, Trustee Johnson.
All
Uh,
right. Mr. Chair, at this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Dominic Loya, who's going to do the presentation for the tip amendments.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the Policy Committee. Just 1 second, and I will have the PowerPoint presentation up for you. So today we will be looking at Resolution 20-07. It's a resolution amending the 2020 to 2025 Transportation Improvement Program.
Dominic,
have-
could you hold on for just a second? I've not got
Certainly.
your slides up.
Did it
Does
not
anybody
share?
else have Dominic's slides visible?
No,
1 second. Let me see. It did not share then. Share screen. Um,
All right. I have them now, Mr. Chair.
okay, proceed.
Alrighty, we're going to be looking at 3 amendments today. 1 second. There we go. The first is TL 00130 for federal fiscal year 2020. It's for Roadrunner Transit for the Operation and Maintenance Center. They're looking to add a new funding source and adjust funding allocations to the project. The second is LC 00271. It's for NMDOT for fiscal year 2023 for the US 70 Corridor Phase 5. This will be for bridge replacement, roadway reconstruction, pavement preservation, ADA, and intersection improvements. The change is increasing funds from 1.6 million in federal fiscal year 2023 for a new project total of 12.6 million. And the third one is LC 00290 for federal fiscal years 2022 and 2023, also by NMDOT. This is for the University Multimodal Project for construction of a multi-use path along University Avenue. The amendment to the project scope to include multimodal and roadway improvements, increase construction funds from 8.6 million in federal fiscal to 8.6 million in federal fiscal year 2022 and to 3.4 million in federal fiscal year 2023.
Okay,
We are requesting approval of this series of TIP amendments. The BPAC did recommend approval on July 21st, and TAC recommended approval on August 6th. For questions, we do have on the line Mr. Mike Bartholomew for Roadrunner Transit, as well as Ms. Debbie Hudson for NMDOT.
perhaps maybe we should have an amendment or a motion to approve these amendments first. Before we
Chair Sword, this is Commissioner Sanchez. I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 20-07, amending the 2020 to 2025 Transportation Improvement Program.
Yeah, thank you, Manny. We have to keep our microphones off because there's a lot of background noise when there's more than 2 microphones on at the same time, maybe even more than 1. I'll be listening for that. So yeah, is there a second to the motion?
Chair, this is Trent. I'll second.
Oh, it's Trent. I see. Okay, he's the noisy one. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. And any questions or comments from the committee?
I'm sorry, Chair, can we go back one slide? Or Mr. Loya, can you go back one slide? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I don't know why when I was switching between windows here, I missed the this university multimodal project. I just wanted to make sure it matched their packet in the agenda. I'm good, I'm good, Chair.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me see here. Trustee Johnson Burek.
You can raise your hand if you can't.
I saw, okay, the trustee voted yes. Mr. Doolittle.
Yes.
Trustee Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The
Okay.
motion passes, Mr. Chair.
On the agenda, Andrew?
The next item on the agenda, Mr. Chair, is the bylaws amendment presentation. If you will bear with me just a moment, it's now my turn to share my screen.
Okay, thank you.
All right, before I begin, can everybody see this?
Yes, it's showing.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. As everybody is aware, we are in an ongoing public health emergency, which is currently prohibiting this MPO from engaging in our traditional in-person public meetings. The current version of the MPO bylaws has specific language prohibiting telephonic voting under most circumstances. And even in the circumstances wherein it is permitted, it limits telephonic voting to only 1 member of the policy committee at the meeting. There was a lot of concern that staff, and I spoke with Trustee Johnson Burek in the early days of the pandemic about this. There was concern on the part of staff that it would not be possible under our bylaws to have any kind of virtual meeting. Obviously, the virtual meeting idea was a very early one as a response to the pandemic, but I was concerned that we were not going to be able to participate in that due to the bylaws restriction. As a result of that, MPO staff consulted with the City of Las Cruces Legal Department, who serves as the legal counsel for this MPO. City of Las Cruces Legal informed the MPO staff that the State Attorney General's Office Open Government Division had issued an advisory that at this point, I'm sure everybody in your respective capacities at your jurisdictions are aware of, that basically gave guidance for how the virtual meetings could be conducted, and that it was the opinion of the City of Las Cruces Legal Department that took precedence over the MPO bylaws. I relayed this information to Trustee Johnson Burek, and we were both in agreement that, hey, this is great because this means that we were able to come back to life and resume business. And so that is what we have been doing over the past couple of months. However, all that being said, MPO staff believes it best that we go ahead and take this opportunity now that the MTP is concluded, to go ahead and amend the MPO bylaws to better respond to the current situation and anticipate future issues. We do, the language that's on your screen, I won't read it because it is a bit tedious and verbose. But that is the proposed amendment that that MPO staff is suggesting that we put into the MPO bylaws. That would be under Policy Committee, Section 3. I beg everyone's pardon, I forgot the Section 3, subsection F, subsection 4. This would be the proposed amendment to the bylaws. I do, Mr. Chair, have a piece of public comment that I need to read with regards to this, if I may be given permission to do so at this time. The comment is from Mr. George Pearson, who is the chair of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Facilities Advisory Committee, and his comment reads as follows. Hello, Andrew and Trustee Johnson-Burek. I noticed the discussion item regarding the bylaw changes and the recommended update to account for the public health emergency and the need for virtual committee meetings. It is not clear to me that the suggested change also applies to the TAC and the BPAC. The bylaws has a separate meeting section for Policy Committee and for the TAC and BPAC. I don't have a clear suggestion as to how this should be addressed. This suggested addition could be worded to be clear that it applies to the TAC and the BPAC, or the meeting section for TAC and BPAC could also have similar wording added. Given the format for the meeting, please consider this as a public comment, either during the first comment period or during the discussion item. I thought it best to read it through the discussion item. The staff, MPO staff does have a, beg your pardon. MPO staff does have a response to that. Mr. Pearson is correct in that the language does not directly reference the TAC and the BPAC. The reason for that, though, is the bylaws are actually silent as to whether the TAC and the BPAC can meet telephonically. And so the interpretation of staff and the city legal department is there is no impediment there for those committees to meet telephonically. There is a specific impediment in the bylaws with regard to the Policy Committee. That's why this language that staff is proposing does not address the TAC and the BPAC, or at least that's the rationale behind why staff is making this proposal. We do intend, once the impending JPA process is concluded, to address the bylaws in a more comprehensive manner. And so this is intended to be kind of a short-term fix for the situation, anticipating a future review of the bylaws in greater detail. With that, I stand for any questions. This is not an action item today, so I just want to make that clear. We will be bringing it for action at the September Policy Committee meeting. But if anybody has any comments or suggestions about the bylaws, now would be the time to let staff know.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, this is Trent. I have a quick question.
Yes, Trent, go ahead.
Andrew, could you do me a favor and go back to the slide with the proposed language? Can you do that?
Certainly. Give me just a moment. I have to reshare my screen.
While you're doing that, the only concern that I have is the language very specifically says the governor. But knowing that we, being down in the South, we've had our own separate issues. That limits us just to a governor's order. But what if the governor releases some restrictions, but the mayor, for instance, has others implemented just for our region? Should that be a little more lenient other than specific to the governor?
Mr. Doolittle, that is a very good point. I think probably we should take that into consideration. Staff will go back and we'll revise the text of the bylaws to make that accommodation. We do have to tie it to the actions of specific jurisdictions. So the only, I guess the county, I am unaware actually, and maybe Commissioner Sanchez could speak to this. I don't know if the county commission can declare a state of emergency or how that process would be delegated. I know that the mayor of Las Cruces can so declare such a state, and I believe that the mayor of Mesilla can declare such a state as well. But I do want to note for the record that Mayor Barraza has joined us, so Mayor Barraza can speak to that issue as well. But I would ask Commissioner Sanchez what the status with regard to the county declaring a state of emergency would be.
Thank you, Andrew. Right, yes. So the commission can declare a state of emergency as we have, along with the city, have a emergency declaration for the public health emergency as well. But yes, since we don't have the figurehead as say the mayor where he can do a emergency order, it would have to be the Board of County Commissioners as a whole would declare that emergency.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, real quick, I guess, could it be written just as vaguely as to say, in the event that a state of emergency is declared that prevents, in-person meetings or something along that line? That way it could be specific to our region.
I like that language myself, Trent. Good.
Yeah, and I'll second that. I believe it'll, if you could do wording that might say the any municipality or local government within the jurisdiction of the Mesilla Valley MPO. That way, then you don't have to specifically state all the municipalities in the county specifically.
Okay, we will revise the proposed text in that vein. We'll send it around to the entire policy committee for review before it goes into the packet for next month's meeting, just to ensure that everybody is in agreement and if there are any final suggestions.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. That's good. Any other comments? Questions? See none. Nobody's raising their hand, by the way. I'm watching the hand raising going here, but that's okay. We can get along without raising hands if you don't want to. That's fine. So Andrew, what's next on the agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item that we have on the agenda is a discussion about the impending joint powers agreement. Let me go ahead and start. Can everybody see the slide?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Joint Powers Agreement is the document that creates the Mesilla Valley MPO. This is to some extent going to be a rehash of the presentation that was given on this topic late last year to the policy committee. It is a document that creates the Mesilla Valley MPO. It was originally an agreement between the city of Las Cruces, the town of Mesilla, and Doñana County. It is the federally required document for the MPO. It is the document that governs the small MPOs. El Paso, being a large MPO, has a slightly different means via which their operations are established and carried out. Last year, as most of the committee members who are with us will remember, the New Mexico Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration jointly notified the Mesilla Valley MPO of their expectation that our joint powers agreement will be renegotiated after the adoption of the 2020 MTP. They had initially requested that we take up the JPA sooner, but I requested that since we were well into the process of working on what ultimately became Mobility 2045, that we be given a grace period until after the MTP was done before we looked at the JPA. FHWA and NMDOT agreed to that grace period. However, Mobility 2045 has now been adopted, which now means that renegotiating the Joint Powers Agreement is now the highest priority of this MPO. The JPA must be adopted by the City of Las Cruces, the Doñana County Commission, and the Town of Mesilla Board of Trustees. After these entities adopt the document, it is then submitted to the State of New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration for approval by the state. As an aside, all amendments to the JPA must also go through the same process. I will note that the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration do not directly participate in the process, other than ultimately having an oversight over the activities of all the MPOs in the state and also the activities of NMDOT. The current JPA was renegotiated in the latter part of 2012 and was adopted in the first half of 2013. It came into force on July 19th of 2013. The process via which that the current JPA was done, the negotiating was done by a designated subcommittee with one representative from each jurisdiction, the city, the county, and the town. At that time, NMDOT was not a voting member of the policy committee. They did not directly participate in the renegotiation. It was that JPA that made NMDOT be a voting member of the policy committee. Just a couple of concerns that have been raised in the recent past with regard to the JPA. FHWA specifically spoke to MPO staff about their concern about the lack of internal conflict resolution provisions within the text of the current JPA. They're also concerned about the lack of mandatory triggers for JPA review or renegotiation. Also, within the past couple of years, policy committee members have expressed some concerns about what the role of the policy committee will be with regard to the hiring processes of MPO staff. I have to say that this is kind of going to be brand new territory, certainly for me. Most of the policy committee has turned over since the last JPA was renegotiated. I believe that Councilor Sorg and Mayor Barraza are the only members who are standing still on the policy committee who are there. I am aware of the fact that late last year, Councilor Sorg said that the city council had specifically designated him to be a representative of the city when it comes to the JPA renegotiation process. We will need a similar designation from both the town and the county as to who's going to fulfill that role. And that's kind of the step we're at right now as far as who the representatives are going to be. With that, I stand for any questions.
Okay. Does anybody have a question? Mr. Doolittle.
Do you like that? I use my raised hand button.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only thing I would like to remind the committee is Andrew mentioned there had been some discussion about the hiring of that position, but the other thing that we also talked about was the evaluation and what role we played and how much input we had. So just as a reminder, that's something else that I think the subcommittee or however we decide to move forward with the JPA also considers and discussing, including so that we have an opportunity to evaluate Andrew and his staff. But other than that, Mr. Chair, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, very good. And I apologize for not recognize the great mayor of La Mesilla, Ms. Nora L. Barraza is with us at the meeting now. And so I just wanted to make sure everybody for the record knows that.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Sorg. I appreciate that. And my apologies for being late. I was having technical difficulties.
Understandable. It happens all the time nowadays. Okay, Mr. Sanchez, Commissioner.
There we go. So many buttons here to navigate.
Yeah.
So Andrew, I just wanted to verify. So we just need the county, I guess, us as the county commissioners to determine who the point of contact will be for these discussions?
Commissioner, yes, and I apologize. There's one thing I failed to mention. I guess it should also be asked of the policy committee if the consensus of the committee is that they would prefer to delegate this to a subcommittee within the policy committee. From the discussion that we've had already, I don't think that there's any desire to change that. But Commissioner, to your question, yes, we'd need the county commission to officially tap who it is that they want to represent them in the negotiating process. And same thing for the town of Mesilla as well.
Okay.
Presuming Mr. Doolittle, since he's the incumbent from representing the DOT vote, Mr. Doolittle is going to be the one representing NMDOT. Although I guess if Mr. Doolittle so desired, he could have somebody else represent the DOT in the discussion as well.
Okay,
Okay, just wanted to make sure so I knew what, I guess I can take that back with us to the county and make sure we're doing our part here.
Okay,
okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Sure.
I would just like to say I'll go ahead and in the immediate future reach out to each one of the jurisdictional delegations individually, just to ensure that everybody is making progress on the decision. And I guess, Counselor, with respect to your status, I assume that you are still the designated negotiating party for the city of Las Cruces.
That's a question.
Yes, I am asking. I want to make sure that I know.
Okay.
Know for a fact.
Yes. As far as I know, I haven't heard any changes.
Okay.
So Mayor Barraza has a hand up. Yes.
Thank you, Counselor Sorg. Okay, I'm just trying to get some, first, let me clarify. Is Trustee Johnson Burek chairperson not chairing the meeting, and Counselor Sorg, you are?
Well, yeah, just because her microphone isn't working.
Okay, very good. That way I know who to address to whom. Okay, my concern is, as I'm looking at the slide that's before me on the computer, it says the policy committee members have expressed concerns about the role of the policy committee within the hiring processes of MPO staff. I mean, has that been clarified, being that I jumped into the meeting late? What the role is of the policy committee members, so that I have an idea what the expectation is and who to recommend to our board, who would be our person from the town of Mesilla representing the town.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Mayor. No, we need the town to go ahead and make a nomination as to who the town wishes to represent it on as part of the JPA negotiating process. So we do. We're not asking for it today. It doesn't need to be done right now, just sometime in the near future. Honestly, what probably needs to take place is once I hear from all of the jurisdictions that that they have made a determination about who they want to participate in the negotiating, the policy committee as a whole, because we do have the provision, and back to the bylaws again, but we do have the provision within the bylaws for the policy committee to designate a subcommittee. Once we have the names from the jurisdictions, the policy committee at that point probably then needs to officially have a vote to delegate that subcommittee to carry on the joint powers agreement negotiation.
Very
If
good.
that
Thank
makes
you
sense.
so much. No, it definitely clarifies my concerns going through my mind. Thank you.
Very good. Any others? Let's move on to the next discussion item, Mr. Way, then.
I apologize, Mr. Chair. I was having problems getting myself unmuted again. The next item is the quality assurance review presentation. This one is going to be very short. The quality assurance review is the annual process by which the New Mexico Department of Transportation evaluates the performance of this MPO and all the other MPOs throughout the state of New Mexico. It is not an audit. I do want to specifically say that, but it is a process that has some audit-like features, and it definitely has some serious teeth behind it if an MPO is found to be in deficiency in some area or other. However, I am pleased to report that other than the need to renegotiate the joint powers agreement, which we are already starting the process on that, the Mesilla Valley MPO had a clean quality assurance review in 2020. We're in good standing with the state and the feds as of right now, now that we have the MTP done. So this is something that we certainly want to carry forward. But we're clean as of right now, so I'll stand for any questions.
Very good, Mr. Way. Good job. Thank you. Any questions from committee?
And I will note, Mr. Chair, that we do have the QAR in the meeting packet for today's meeting, so anyone who wants to review that document in detail can do so.
Okay, thank you. Seeing none, let's move on to the next item on the agenda.
For that item, Mr. Chair, I would like to reintroduce Mr. Dominic Loya, who's going to present on a change with regards to the statewide transportation improvement program.
We got two Dominics here.
Good afternoon again. 1 second, let me go ahead and pull up the presentation. Can everybody hear me all right and see the screen?
Yes, the screen is fine.
So for the record, this is Dominic Loy again, Transportation Planner for the Mississippi Valley MPO. Last year, NMDOT conducted a review process for the state MPOs to check the viability of implementing a 4-year transportation improvement program. All the New Mexico MPOs did concur with the initiative of a 4-year cycle. After we began the implementation, though, NMDOT determined that it was that a 4-year cycle could not proceed. In your packets, in the last 2 pages, on pages 58 and 59, we have a letter from the Deputy Secretary, Mr. Justin Reese, as to why they would not. They felt a 2-year cycle would be better, and why we would be staying with a 2-year cycle. So what that means for us is that the UPWP that we just adopted, we will need to do an amendment for it as a result of the change to add in a tip development section. We did announce this last week at the Technical Advisory Committee to begin the 30-day comment period on it. And we will be bringing this forward within the next few meetings for an actual amendment. And I'll now stand for any comments and questions.
Okay, anyone? Uh-oh, I pushed the wrong button, so I got a request for permission from the meeting host. No. I don't know how that came up on my screen, but anyway, I don't see any hands up. So let's proceed on to the next item. Andrew?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is the NMDOT update.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really don't have much to change from last month to this month. We continue to do final punch list work on the on Valley Drive in the US 70 I-25 project. Real minor stuff at this point. For the most part, just minimal impacts, but we are finished with both of those. The one, if you haven't had an opportunity to drive through, is the University I-25. We've placed the deck basically and the girders on the new bridge over I-25. They are working on the brand new bridge that will take place where Traverse goes underneath University. So they're working on that. And then they've also placed the curb and gutter for the roundabout on the south side, right there at the Pan Am parking lot. So they continue to move very quickly. We're kind of lucky with this pandemic that the traffic has been extremely minimal, allowing us to do some pretty creative things to stay on top of work. But other than that, Mr. Chair, I don't have much else. It's just kind of business as usual for us. But I'll stand for any questions if anybody has anything.
Thank you very much, Mr. Doolittle. Also, I would add to that, it might be a disappointment, but it would be a very big beneficial to that project if there's no football season and having a football game on the weekend. Okay, just throwing that out there.
Mr. Chair, real quick, if I may, just to address that comment specifically, I know things are a little bit different, but when we bid the project, we actually coordinated with NMSU for all their major activities. Again, I know the concerts and things have been canceled and postponed, those kinds of things. We worked with Las Cruces Public Schools on their graduation ceremonies. So all of those really important dates, at least at the time, we may have to revisit it now, but all of those important dates were included in the contract to minimize those impacts. So we were going to have as many lanes open, people not working, those kinds of things. Again, it's going to change because of the pandemic, but we did have a little bit of forethought to put those in. So thank you.
Well done. Yes, well done. That's great. Awesome. Any, Manny, Commissioner Sanchez?
Thank you, Chair. Trent, I did want to say I've noticed that the progress that y'all have made along with the university project, and I applaud you all. And I guess that's a silver lining, as you had mentioned, of the pandemic, is the ability to have, or at least having less traffic. Other than that, I just wanted to compliment you on your office. I love the borders and everything behind you there.
We have turned my daughter's playrooms into an office, so the only quiet place, believe it or not.
I can. I was like, with the kiddos around and going virtual, at least to start the school year, it's we've tried to find new places in which we can conduct these Zoom meetings or WebEx meetings, whatever they may be. So I totally understand, but no, I appreciate everything the DOT is doing, and I've seen progress around town. And so I just wanted to thank you all for all your efforts, Trent.
Very good, Manny. I agree with you on that. Okay, is there anything else on the agenda then, Mr. Way?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the next item is committee and staff comments. We do, MPO staff does have one comment. It's kind of a bittersweet one, but today was Miss Valerie Sherman's last day in the office with us. She's been with us for nearly 2 years now. She obtained a position as a senior planner down in Texas, so we're really excited for her. This is a big promotion for her. Really looking forward to good things in her career coming up, but we are sad to see her leave the MPO, but big things in store for her. We're just glad that she didn't leave until after the MTP was done. We would not have wanted to have dealt with that. So we are currently in the process of rewriting the job description a little bit, as the last time that we hired for the associate planner position, it was a different position than what we have it doing now. And so we're working on a rewrite. I hope to have that rewrite done by the end of next week, and then hopefully have the position posted soon, certainly hopefully before the end of this month. So my optimistic time frame is we'll hopefully have the position filled in about 4 months, but it may be 5 to 6. We all know how these things go sometimes, but we're going to miss Valerie, but we're very excited for her as well.
Okay, very good. Well, our best wishes to Valerie then, as she goes to Texas. Okay, I'm about to lose my voice, so I'm going to keep quiet and only adjourn the meeting. That's it. So is there somebody else that needs to have a comment? Go ahead.
You guys still can't hear me, can you?
Yes, we can hear you. It's staticky, but we can. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I was just testing it because I think it's still because I called into the Zoom. So I guess I'm going to have to get my microphone on my computer looked at, but I was just going to comment on Trent's choice of his office too, that Commissioner Sanchez mentioned. So yeah, and I wanted to thank you, Councilor Sword, for stepping in. So hopefully this will all be resolved by the next meeting.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And so if there's no further comments, I'll take a motion to have the meeting adjourned.
This is Commissioner Sanchez. I'll move to adjourn.
Mayor Barraza will second.
Without objection, I'll call the meeting adjourned. Have a
Thank you,
good,
everyone. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thanks, Gil.
yeah.